Imagine returning to camp with nothing. No meat, no blood on the spear, no heavy animal dragged through the grass, just tired legs, empty hands, and a group waiting beside a weak fire. For modern people, a failed hunt sounds like a bad day. For ancient humans, it could sound like hunger. But here is the strange part. In many places, the hunt was never the whole meal. The popular image of prehistoric life is simple. Hunters chase large animals, bring back huge cuts of meat, and everyone eats beside the fire. Archaeology tells a much messier story. Ancient humans ate differently depending on where they lived, what season it was, which plants were available, and which animals could actually be caught. Some groups relied heavily on meat, others consumed large amounts of plant food. Human survival depended on switching between different resources rather than relying on one perfect source. So what happened when the hunters came home empty-handed? The first answer was already waiting close to camp. Plants, roots, tubers, seeds, nuts, fruits, leaves, grasses and edible bulbs did not run away. They could still be difficult to find, recognize, dig up, and process. But unlike a frightened herd, they stayed in one place. That made gathering more than a desperate backup plan. In many environments, it was a dependable part of daily survival. The problem is that plant foods often disappear from archaeological sites. Bones, teeth, and stone tools can survive for tens of thousands of years. Soft fruit, leaves, and cooked roots usually do not. That creates a distorted picture. If a cave contains hundreds of animal bones, and only a few invisible plant traces, it can look as though meat dominated every meal. But scientists have learned to search in smaller places. Mineralized plaque on ancient teeth can trap starch grains, plant particles, and fragments of genetic material. Those traces have revealed grass seeds, underground storage organs, pine nuts, mushrooms, wild cereals, and other plant foods in prehistoric diets. At Tafaralt in Morocco, isotope evidence from hunter-gatherers who lived roughly 15,000 to 13,000 years ago showed a substantial reliance on plants long before agriculture began. That means the empty-handed hunters may not have returned to an empty table. Someone else may already have collected the food. This is where the familiar picture of the hunter feeding the group begins to break apart. Food could come from many people doing different jobs: digging for roots, gathering nuts, collecting shellfish, catching small animals, searching for eggs, or bringing back plants whose locations had been remembered from earlier seasons. A failed hunt was dangerous, but it did not automatically mean nobody ate. Imagine a dry landscape. Large animals have moved away. The hunters follow tracks for hours and find nothing. Back near camp, others search the ground for buried tubers. These underground parts can store energy in the form of starch. They are hidden from many grazing animals and may remain available when the plants above the ground look dead. But digging them out is only the beginning. Some roots are fibrous. Some are bitter. Some contain toxins that must be reduced through soaking, pounding, roasting, or repeated heating. A plant that looks useless in the ground can become food only after someone knows exactly what to do with it. That knowledge was as important as a spear. You could place a modern person inside a landscape full of edible plants and still watch them starve. The food is there, but recognition is missing. Ancient people had to know which leaf belonged to which root, where a plant appeared after rain, which seed ripened in a certain month, and which bitter taste meant cook this longer rather than do not eat this. That information was carried through memory, demonstration, and repetition. Children could watch adults dig. They could learn which plants were safe by following, copying, tasting carefully, and seeing how food was prepared. Older members of the group may have held knowledge that became especially valuable when hunting failed. Someone who could no longer chase animals might still remember where water, roots, or seasonal fruits could be found. Failure in one skill did not erase usefulness in every other skill, and plants were only one answer. Near rivers, lakes, coasts, and wetlands, ancient humans could turn toward fish, shellfish, crabs, turtles, water birds, and other smaller resources. These foods were not always easy to collect, but they could sometimes be more predictable than large game. Evidence from Mediterranean sites shows that Neanderthals and later hunter-gatherers used shellfish, fish, small animals, and marine resources when local conditions allowed it. Dental calculus from a Mesolithic individual in Croatia. Preserved fish remains together with plant starch, showing that the same person consumed foods from both water and land. The meal was not always meat or plants. It could be both. Small animals also mattered. Rabbits, birds, tortoises, rodents, insects, larvae, eggs, and reptiles provided less food than a large deer, but they reduced the danger of depending on one dramatic success. Catching one rabbit would not feed an entire camp. Catching several small animals, gathering plants, finding eggs, and collecting shellfish might. That was the deeper survival strategy, not one perfect food source, but many imperfect ones combined. Even a successful hunt did not guarantee endless meat. Without refrigeration, fresh flesh spoiled. Cold weather could slow the process, and drying, smoking, roasting, or storing meat could extend its use. But conditions mattered. A large kill created abundance for a time, not permanent security. Ancient groups had to think beyond tonight. When nuts or seeds appeared seasonally, they could be collected in quantity. Some plant foods could be dried. Hard-shelled resources could last longer than soft fruit. Fat-rich nuts offered dense energy. Seeds and wild grains could be pounded or ground. Roasting could soften food, improve its taste, and make some plants easier to digest. There is evidence that Neanderthals heated starch-rich plants. Starch grains recovered from dental calculus at sites, including Shanidar in Iraq and Spy in Belgium, showed changes consistent with cooking. This does not mean every group followed the same recipe. It means prehistoric cooking was more varied than placing a slab of meat over flames. Picture the fire again. The hunters have returned without an animal, but around the flames, someone cracks nuts between stones. Someone else pulls roasted roots from hot ash. A child carries eggs found near the water. Another person cleans shellfish. There may be no giant carcass in the center of camp, yet the group is still assembling a meal. Would it feel disappointing? Probably. Large animals offered meat, fat, hides, bone, sinew, and other valuable materials. A failed hunt could mean lost energy, damaged tools, injuries, and fewer resources for the coming days. Plant foods were not magically abundant everywhere, and seasonal shortages could become deadly. In cold or arid environments, edible plants could be scarce. In some regions and periods, humans clearly relied heavily on animal protein. There was no single ancient human diet. That is the most important point. A Neanderthal in Ice Age Belgium did not eat like a hunter-gatherer in North Africa. Research on Neanderthal dental calculus found evidence of a meat-heavy diet at Spy Cave in Belgium, including wild sheep and woolly rhinoceros. Individuals from El Cedron in Spain showed evidence connected to mushrooms, pine nuts, and forest plants. The difference was not confusion, it was adaptation. Ancient humans ate the landscape available to them. When hunting failed, they did not open a universal prehistoric cookbook. They used local knowledge. In one place, that meant shellfish. In another, underground roots. Somewhere else, nuts, wild grains, fruit, fish, eggs, insects, or small animals. And sometimes, none of it was enough. People could still go hungry, they could lose weight, move camp, take greater risks, fight over resources, or follow migrating animals into dangerous territory. Flexibility reduced starvation, it did not eliminate it. Still, the ability to eat many different things may have been one of humanity's greatest advantages. Humans did not survive because every hunt succeeded. They survived because failure did not always end the search. The spear came back clean, but the day was not over. Someone knew where to dig. Someone remembered what was in season. Someone could crack, grind, soak, roast, collect, or catch what the hunters had overlooked. Ancient humans were not simply meat eaters waiting for the next kill. They were problem solvers, eating whatever knowledge could turn into food.